You know, in the world of accounting, we've always been told that the smartest person in the room wins, right? But what if I told you that's not really true anymore? There's this quiet but really powerful shift happening inside the most successful CPA firms. It's a new kind of advantage that has way less to do with individual genius and a whole lot more to do with building a smarter system. Let's get into it.
I know. That's a pretty bold statement. But just think about it for a second. The old playbook, the one where just being the most technically skilled firm was enough to win? Well, it's kind of gathering dust on the shelf. The entire competitive ground has shifted under our feet, and firms that are still playing by those old rules are finding themselves on some seriously shaky ground.
And this quote right here, this really gets to the heart of the whole thing. This isn't about replacing your star players. Not at all. It's about building a better stadium for them to play in. It's about redesigning the entire workflow so their incredible talent is spent on high-value strategy, not all that tedious groundwork. It's a huge shift from who is doing the work to how that work actually gets done.
So, if the old way is becoming obsolete, what are the new rules of the game? Let's kick things off by really defining the core problem that, honestly, every modern CPA firm is wrestling with right now.
This slide just captures that shift perfectly. I mean, it used to be enough just to be the technical expert. Now, that's just the price of admission. Clients expect you to be a psychic, a sprinter, and a surgeon all at the same time. They want lightning speed, perfect accuracy, and they want you to tell them what's coming around the corner before they even think to ask. The expectations they've skyrocketed.
Okay, so what happens when you try to run this high-performance engine on, let's say, old, clunky software? Well, things start to break down. Let's really look at the real, painful costs of trying to meet today's insane demands with yesterday's processes.
Does any of this sound a little familiar? Your best people, the ones you hired for their sharp strategic minds, are just buried in manual tasks. And then the whole system just grinds to a halt. Turnaround times start creeping up, partners are practically drowning in review work, and that high-margin advisory service you were so excited to launch, yeah, that stays a pipe dream because there's just no bandwidth.
So, in this crazy, high-pressure environment, where do the cracks really start to show? Where are firms feeling the strain most acutely?
First up, you've got compliance fatigue. And let's be honest, tax law is a constantly moving target. Just when you think you've finally mastered one set of federal rules, a dozen state-level changes pop up out of nowhere. It's this exhausting, high-stakes game of whack-a-mole where a single miss can have huge consequences for your client.
Then, of course, you've got the classic audit season overload. That peak season volume is an absolute beast. Even the best-staffed firms struggle to manage the sheer amount of work without letting timelines slip, or even worse, sacrificing quality.
And you know this one, seasonal tax stress. Personal tax work brings these massive spikes in volume, with incredibly tight deadlines. It just pushes your internal teams to their absolute breaking point, year after year after year.
Okay, so we've laid out the problem pretty clearly. The old way is broken. So what's the fix? Well, the answer isn't some simple patch. It's a fundamental, strategic shift in how we think about getting the work done. Let's dive into the solution.
And this is the key. We have to completely redefine what efficiency even means. It's not about working faster, it's about working smarter. True efficiency is all about alignment. It's about getting the right work to the right person at the right time. It's about finally putting your experts on expert-level problems. This really clarifies the whole goal here. We're not talking about cutting corners or just finding cheaper labor. No way. This is a strategic move to gain absolute control over your workflow. It's all about empowering your in-house team by taking that repetitive, execution-heavy work right off their plates. Okay, enough with the theory. Let's get practical. How does this strategic shift to efficiency actually look when you apply it across the key services a CPA firm offers? So, let's start with tax compliance. The pain point, as we said, is that endless stream of changing laws. The solution? Having a dedicated team whose only job is to track these updates and bake them right into the workflow. Your firm stops scrambling and starts operating with the confidence that everything is totally up to date. Now for audit support. The pain is that brutal peak season volume. The solution here is to use offshore support for the heavy lifting. You know, the work papers, the testing. This frees up your domestic team to focus on what actually matters most, that high-level analysis and client relationships, all while they retain full control and sign-off.
And personal tax, we all know the pain of that seasonal burnout. The solution is to outsource the prep work and all that data organization. All of a sudden, you've got this flexible workforce that can scale up for the rush without the massive cost of hiring permanent staff you don't even need come July.
And finally, payroll. It's one of those services that clients only notice when it goes wrong, and when it does, it really goes wrong. Outsourcing it just removes that high-risk operational burden, it ensures consistency, compliance, and most importantly, it protects that precious client trust. So after all this restructuring and rethinking, what's the real payoff? Well, it boils down to the two things every single firm leader cares about the most: deepening that client trust and unlocking real, sustainable growth.
Okay, but let's just address the elephant in the room. I know the big question, the main concern that a lot of firm leaders have. Does putting work behind the scenes somehow create distance or weaken that all-important client relationship?
The reality is, it's the complete opposite. Think about it. Before this kind of shift, your team is overloaded and reactive, just trying to keep their heads above water. But after you implement this model, your team is freed up. They become more responsive to client needs, and, critically, they have the mental space to be proactive advisors.
Because here's the thing. Here is what the client actually sees. They don't care where the work papers were prepared. What they care about is that their questions get answered faster, the work is more accurate, and that you're the one bringing them strategic ideas. This operational shift directly fuels a better client experience, period. And this brings us to the single most important takeaway from all of this. In today's market, technical skill is just your entry fee. The real differentiator, the new engine for growth, is operational strength. Being operationally brilliant is what separates the good firms from the truly great ones.
And that really just leaves us with one final thought. The future of this entire industry is being written right now. And it's not being written by those with the most expertise, but by those with the smartest systems. The firms that are winning and that are going to win tomorrow are the ones redesigning their engines today. So the only question left is, are you?